What's going on, YouTube? It is your boy Nas, aka Thesis himself, and today we have got the Barrage by Asmodus and myself. Now with that said, I do want to give a giant shout out to the NinjaMilitia on the Patreon page. You guys are continuing to keep the channel afloat, especially with all of the vape bans that's going on. Make sure to check the description. I'll make sure to post CASA as well as VTA and of course the numbers y'all should be calling on a daily basis. I've basically made it a part of my daily ritual. When I wake up, I fucking call the White House, either leave a message or I wait till they hang up on me. So with that said, mother truckers, this is just going to be a quick build video. It's not really a review, only because of course I'm going to say it's great because it's mine and it's the truth. It's fucking phenomenal. It's meant to do one thing and one thing really well. So with that said, Ninja Kitties, if you enjoy the content, please be sure to hit me up on Patreon, patreon.com/ThesisHimself. With that said, fuck the small talk. Let's go and get up close and personal with the Barrage by myself and Asmodus. Welcome to Up Close and Personal with your boy Thesis. Now real quick, this is not going to be a review. This is just simply a build video and my suggestions in terms of how to build the Barrage. So first and foremost, fuck the box because I ripped it open. I was excited as shit when I first got these in the mail. I was like, yes, I'm going to bring these to ECC. Okay, guys, my Ninja Kitties. Now real quick, again, we're just going to be building this because I want to address some of the mistakes I've been seeing a couple other reviewers make, and I want to make sure that anyone who picks up the RDA knows exactly how to build it to get the best performance and best flavor out of it. Now first I want to note, this was not necessarily on purpose, but I did make this for left hand, and what I mean by left hand is counterclockwise coils. In other words, most people basically wrap their coils like this. If they're going to wrap them, they wrap them clockwise. Myself, I've been building this around a counterclockwise coil, mostly because my homeboy Ray on the NinjaMilitia page, he's the one that wraps most of my coils for me and makes these beautiful motherfuckers right here, and they are wrapped counterclockwise. You want the legs of the coil to be at the bottom like this as opposed to like that. And you can make it work either way. You just have to make sure that that coil sits up at least 3 millimeters above the squonk pin. I'll explain that in a second. Go ahead and grab yourself your coiler tool. You will have to stretch it out to about 3 millimeters, so pop it on your 3 millimeter coiler just like that. Now I don't have my flush snips, they're out in the shop, so I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of snip them with this bad boy before I install it. Now this is the only coil that you do receive inside the box with the Barrage. They are solid as fuck in terms of overall quality, but with that said, they are among the best coils that I've ever used in terms of out of a box RDA or out of the box dripper. Go ahead and pop this in just like that. This is a 1.5 millimeter Allen head that's done again on purpose. It's one of the more common Allen heads that you'll see in the industry. I wanted to keep everything on here fairly standard and within the Asmodus ecosystem, if you will. Before I actually install it, I do want to show this is where your alignment's going to be. You want to make sure your holes are kind of cockeyed, just ever so slightly, so that way your cotton sits inside of here and inside of here. Now reiterate this like I did in the presentation video. The airflow does come in through the heat sink. Again, the heat sink is specifically because the body of it was overheating, so we did end up by having to do this. It kind of reminds me of the font, F-O-N-T-E, the font RDA from Asmodus back in the day. I know a couple of people compared it to like the 502, compared it to like the original Alliance or the Toe, because there's a lot of RDAs who've used the heatsink, probably for heat, but as well as aesthetics, and the font RDA was one of those. Let me go ahead and grab that. Here, bam. Just like this, for example. This was actually kind of a cool design when it came out. It came with the Luna. And in the original review of the font, I did mention how kind of chintzy this was in terms of just the gauge of steel was super thin. And if you look at the base of here, I wanted to keep this as thick as possible to maintain that chunky feel. Let's go and see, make sure we're zeroed out. 1 millimeter thick gauge on the thinnest portion of this body. So of course, with the thicker gauge steel does come more heat retention. We had to kind of back that off some using those heat sinks as baffles. So again, it comes into the heat sink, making sure the body is nice and cool, down the airflow tunnel, hits this ramp. The ramp goes underneath that coil. That's again why you want your coil placement to be so high, and then it comes right back up into your mouth. With that said, make sure that your coil is up high, otherwise your flavor will suffer, and that's a guarantee. Pop this in just like that, ever so slightly cockeyed to make sure that cotton comes down and flows into those wicking slots. Tighten her up and make sure that this one is nice and snug. The second one is just as important to make sure there's no shorting or changing of resistance or anything along those lines. Looks like a piece of jewelry on there. Now take a look and note the amount of space between the bottom of the coil and the top of the squonk pin. That right there is your moneymaker. That's what produces the flavor. That's where the airflow hits right here. You can go up and down, of course, in coil size, and that is going to alter your airflow a bit. You can get just as good a flavor out of a larger coil. It's just all dependent upon whether or not you want spitback, whether or not you want a little bit more turbulence, whether or not you want more smooth airflow. You want to make sure that there's enough room in and around that coil in order to get that airflow around it efficiently. I mentioned this in the presentation video. I do tend to overwick mine just a bit because I do use a bit of PG to thin out some of my liquids, specifically to get more of a harsh throat hit without having to utilize more nicotine. So I know a lot of you guys are going to be cringing at the amount of cotton I'm using, but I promise it's on purpose. Now I do tend to cut my cotton just a bit over the deck, and that way I can curl it just like this, in and under. especially on this side in particular. Right here, you're gonna notice a gap just beneath that airflow ramp. It almost fit my tweezers between it. And that's where some of the juice will sit and kind of settle. So I wanna make sure this is nice and in there, that way it soaks it up. Now right here is extremely important. If you see this cotton that's coming out right there, that's kind of blocking that airflow ramp. As soon as we get liquid onto that cotton, it's wicked up and saturated. We're gonna move that cotton off to the side and back into the wicking slots. Today I'm going to be using Trapped e-liquid. This is raspberry strawberry cream. Huge shout out to my boy Ron. He's the one who's mixed this up. This is all his recipes. I think he's out there in Arizona. Hit his ass up on Instagram, Trapped e-liquid. They're kind of having some issues with their merchant situation, especially with the chaos that the vape industry is experiencing right now. Hit him up. He'll make you an invoice and he'll send that shit out. Now, if you do belong to the Ninja Militia, you will have a 30% off coupon code that is exclusive to the Patreon page. Bam. Again, thank you guys so much for the support. You guys are the ones who have made this possible. Asmodus, the Ninja Militia, my family, all of that. Without you guys, none of this shit would have been possible. Thank you guys again so much. So right there at the bottom, you see that cotton is nice and clear out of the way for that airflow to hit the coil, come up and around. Go and get a little bit of that liquid onto the base, and that way we can go around those O-rings. These O-rings are designed to be extremely tight, but not overly so. Let's go and grab ourselves a device. Today I'm rocking that EH Pro 100. This is the Cold Steel by Ambitions Vapor. It's one of my favorite mods, literally of all time. Both of these. The Cold Steel 200 by Nebelfee out in Germany, and of course Ambitions Vapor. These two bad boys are some of my daily vapes. I just fucking absolutely love it, especially with that stainless steel barrage on top. One of the things, I don't think I've mentioned this in the video, one of the things I would have changed about my own design is going to be the drip tip. We talked about it, went back and forth on a stab wood drip tip. The problem is, simply put, just money. Like the bottom line, we would have been able to do a nice stab wood drip tip, something that's like this kind of color. It would have brought the price up significantly, and that's definitely not what I wanted to do. I wanted this to be a high-end feeling RDA. It's accessible by most of the people. I wanted this to be a high-end feeling RDA, high-end performing RDA, and yet accessible in terms of money. So I'm in love with the shit. You know what I forgot to do? I forgot to fucking burn my coil. Son of a bitch. Let's start again. Now, I know most people do want to compress their coils back together, their wraps, to make it all one cohesive cylinder. Myself, I do like to keep a couple of the gaps in there. I find that wicking tends to be a little bit easier that way. You get more liquid as you drip onto that cotton into the wick itself. So let's go ahead and re-wick this bad motherfucker the way that it should have been the first time. Just to touch base on it again, these are for lining up your coil. At the same time, you do not want to depress your coil all the way down there. That will immediately remove all flavor. And that's going to be because of that airflow is not going directly under the coil the way it should be. If you use the device like that, you will be disappointed, I promise. And it's because this is a purpose-built device. This is a purpose-built RDA that's meant to do one thing and do one thing extremely well. The squonking on this bad boy is phenomenal as well. I haven't been using it in a squonker because I'm actually waiting on an order of liquid from my boy at Trapped. It's going to be the Limeade. It's my personal favorite. Now that the coil's been heat treated, we can just soak that up, pop the top cap back on, and give it a hit. 60 watts. That's kind of my preferential area. Gorgeous. Okay, now the top cap's back on, we can use that as a wall to just go ahead and basically fill her up. I usually get between 2 to 4 mils depending upon the situation. The flavor that you're going to experience is something that I am so proud of. I'm so excited and happy that we were able to get this RDA to this point, to where it's, I would consider to be a perfect single coil setup. You don't have to think about anything. There's no airflow adjustment. Everything is dialed in to be an exact replica of my favorite style of vaping. End of sentence. I'm gonna go ahead and drip real quick, take another hit. Bitch, it's okay, smell the truckers. Now with that being said, let's go and get back to work and live your son. My final summation is this. Well, y'all know my final summation. It's my product. I fucking think it's phenomenal. Simple truth of the matter is this. If you're looking for a 24mm device that is a single coil, gives you insane amount of flavor as well as clouds, this is where it's at. I wouldn't have poured my fucking heart and soul into this device had I not thought it was a perfect product, or damn near perfect product. Could there be a couple of things different? Yes, but in terms of performance, it's exactly what I wanted in terms of the way it tastes and in terms of the way it develops clouds. So with those two things in mind, it is damn near perfect. But with that said, this kind of minor details, the heat sinks do keep it as cold as possible or as cool as possible. And the only other thing I would change is just the drip tip. I wish we had the funds to actually use stab wood drip tips. So of course, the Barrage is available on Asmodus' website as well as like Vapor Range. I think I saw it on a couple different places in the UK. So keep that shit in mind. Hit that up if you're across the pond, and make sure your ass gets a hold of them as soon as possible, because I do know, as far as I understand, it is going to be a limited run. I'm not sure how many we're going to do. If they sell well, we'll do a second run, hopefully with different colors, but that's kind of something that's in the works as we speak. Bitch, it's okay, smell the truckers. Now with that being said, I want to tell you that I appreciate y'all vaping with Thesis. It is your boy Thesis. I'm out.